Today, we are in conversation with the authors of Permacrisis, a plan to fix a fractured world. Joining us is Gordon Brown. He is currently the United Nations Special Envoy for Global Education. He was Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer for more than a decade before becoming Prime Minister. Michael Spence is currently a Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford. In 2001, he was awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for his contributions to the analysis of markets with asymmetric information. And renowned economist, a good friend of ours, Mohammed Al-Arian, currently President of Queen's College, Cambridge, and is also the Chief Economic Advisor at Allianz, the corporate parent of PIMCO, where he served as CEO. Gents, good to see all three of you. I've said this a few times already. It speaks to the modesty of the three of you that the first line of the first page reads, "This book is not meant to be a substitute for melatonin." I can tell all three of you it wasn't. I've read this one as fast as I can. Let's start with the title. Gordon, what's in a name? What is the permacrisis?
I think it's a cascade of crises. You've got pandemics, of course, climate, you've got recession, you've got wars, and you've also got the state of British politics, the state of American politics, the state of European politics, and a general malaise amongst the international institutions. And what I think is unique is we used to talk about shared problems and then common problems. We're now talking about global problems. So climate, infectious diseases, financial stability, none of these things can be resolved without globally coordinated action. They can't be solved by one country on their own. They can't be solved by a group of countries. You've got to find a way of the world working together. So we emphasize the importance of cooperation and how it can be brought about.
Mike, there's a feeling that that's not happening. And it's odd to many that our interconnectedness over the last few decades has increased, but cooperation seems to be declining. Why is that the case?
There are a lot of different causes, Jonathan, but, you know, the rise of China, the rise of this sort of threatening strategic competition between the two is part of it. Part of it was that the globalization patterns that ran for several decades produced some or contributed to some unequal outcomes in terms of economics. So that's now reflected in politics and causes an increase in nationalism, an increase in populism, a kind of negative attitude toward globalization in its previous form. So I think what Gordon's talking about, we're all talking about, is trying to reinvent a fit-for-purpose version of globalization that is respectful of the realities and practicalities of strategic competition, national security, and other things.
One thing you engage with in the book and try to navigate is the crisis into the next crisis, into the next crisis. Mohammed, something that's popped up in conversations we've had over the years is whether this is just a sequence of unfortunate events, whether these are self-inflicted wounds, or if there is something structural about the changes we're witnessing at the moment.
So we argue in the book it's all three. There certainly has been bad luck. But beyond that, there is something structural, which is the inability to grow and grow in an inclusive manner and one that respects our planet. And then we have shot ourselves in the foot several times with policy mistakes. So if you look at the three contributing factors, going from globalization to fragmentation and lack of cooperation, repeated policy mistakes, and the lack of growth, then you get this sense of going from one crisis to another. And what united us was worries about the world we were going to leave our kids. And what made us write this book in an urgent fashion is the realization that the longer this world continues, the harder it gets to solve it.
You think the stakes are that high?
I think the stakes are very, very high.
So what we need is three things. We need a new theory of growth that takes into account environmental needs, equity, good jobs. We need a new theory of economic management that balances fiscal and monetary considerations, but also is aware of the problems related to financial instability. And we need a new theory of international cooperation. We